in Cambodia, and very happy to be guiding us through today's sharing and commemoration. 10 years ago today, our friend, our mentor, our counselor, our teacher, mother to some, sister to others, our inspiration, left this life for the next. At that time, Sue Williams and I made a promise, which in this time together tonight or today, we intend to honor. That promise was to Dekha's youngest daughter, Balgisa, for whom today is also very, very special, as it's her 21st birthday today. We promised that every July 14th, we also promised that as friends such as Dekha and Steve Williams and others passed on, we would continue to carry forward their work, their light, their joy, their traditions, in some cases their jokes, their humor, and of course their wisdom. So this 14th of July, on a 10th anniversary and a 21st birthday, we're carrying forward a practice which was dear to Dekha's heart and to the way that she understood peace building: intergenerational dialogue. We're of course joined by a number of elders who have worked and spent their lives working for peace, and I dare to name just a few, but I apologize to those we don't name tonight. Sue Williams, of course, Simon and Jane Fisher, Silla Ellsworthy is here with us, Bridget and Bob, Emmanuel Bombande, I hope he doesn't mind me putting him in the elder category, Val Ferguson, Babu, Joy Wajira, and so many others. And of course, younger people are here too. Alison Lee from Hong Kong has put together the technical side of this evening. Also, I see people in Myanmar who we're thinking of at the moment. South Africans, I see Esther Jayang, Visal Som in Cambodia. I see Richard Smith in South Africa. He's forever young. And of course, we have Dekha's 4 children, Kaltuma, Ibrahim, Noorow, and Balkisa. Our dialogue will begin with a conversation between Dekha's friend and mentor, John Paul Lederach, and her eldest daughter, Kaltuma, who is now a peace builder herself at the Green String Network in Kenya, and we welcome her boss or her mentor, Angie, as well. Later, Simon Mason will share the voice of Dekha from a reading from the book that they wrote together, Mediation and Governance in Fragile Conflict, Small Steps to Peace. And then we'll have some time for those of you who'd like to share wisdom from Dekha, insights or inspiration that you gain from the conversation we share tonight. And we'll close our time together with a poem that Balgisa herself wrote for this commemoration, this celebration, and for this dialogue. Today on a Facebook post, surprisingly as Facebook does, a comment popped up which said, "Have you ever walked through a community with someone who stopped to greet everyone?" Immediately, of course, I thought of Dekha. As somebody who was raised in a Western country, in Australia, I thought, wrongly obviously, that walking was a means to an end. But when one walked with Dekha through Selly Oak in Birmingham on a winter's night, it was, of course, a different experience. She stopped to greet everyone. And I see Muhammad Suleiman is here tonight, and I believe he often had this walk with her also. She would greet everyone. She would stop to tell them a story, to listen to a story, to remember her father who had the same tradition, and to study a tree or a plant which might have possible medicinal purposes. I remember also doing this with her in Wajir, and of course my partner in crime, Yam, was once very afraid when we stopped and she sent him out on the plain to look at a tree and tried to understand whether it had medicinal purposes. He was sure he would be eaten by a lion. But no doubt it was Dekha's inherent nature to see the value and humanity in all living things. And so I'm sure that's why so many of us have gathered here today to honor her and to see each other and to be one community as we continue to carry forward that wisdom. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining this circle. And now let me pass to my friend John Paul to begin the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. And greetings to all of you from so many different parts of the world. I'm realizing now that it would have been wonderful to have side chats with so many of you. It's great to see you. And Kaltuma, I'm wondering if I can have a way to figure out Kaltuma's before me, because right now I've got a different view, and I'm wondering, Kaltuma, if you could say something, maybe your voice will bring you full center to my area.
Hey, hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes, yeah. Well, it's wonderful to be with you, and I'm just so extraordinarily honored to have this opportunity to spend a little time with you this morning. Morning my time, obviously evening some other places and probably where you're at. So I thought I might start by just having both of us reflect a little bit about some memories of your mom. And maybe I'll jump in with two that have been sitting with me most prominently the last few weeks as I've been thinking about this, and then pass it over to you. And I know we'll kind of go back and forth with some questions that we want to pose to each other here in this time that we have together. One of my best memories was at Eastern Mennonite University, where I know, Kaltuma, that you have also spent a good bit of time in your academic preparation. Dekha came with a number of folks, actually, from, I think, a couple of people from Wajir. I believe Nudia might be on. I'm not sure who else may be in the circle today. And it was very early on in our process of the Summer Institute, which was usually taking place in the months of May and June. And I was doing a kind of an introductory course. It's always very, very daunting when the students sitting in the room have equal or more experience than you do to know what it means to be teacher and student. So those titles kind of faded away because we weren't quite sure what to do with them. But I was trying to explain the experience that I had had with the development of that image that kind of floats around a lot of a pyramid, where it has, high level process and mid-level and the bottom up kind of grassroots work. And after we took a tea break, your mom came up and brought a paper with a drawing on it. She had just hand drawn. And it was, she said, "I've taken your pyramid and I've made it into a rocket ship." And she had this rocket ship all kind of designed and a whole bunch of words floating in, fire coming out from the bottom, and it was exploding off into space somewhere. And the line I kind of remember her saying was, "If we get on this rocket ship, we can go anywhere." And I thought, wow, this is kind of amazing. Of course, during the course of that week, she was taking all the other diagrams. She turned, one of our drawings into a camel's back, and she was always, I think, similar to me, kind of doodling. If you can see something, you can understand it. Words don't kind of get in the way sometimes. So how to figure out to see something. And she always drew images from her daily life. Whatever it was that she was walking in and around and through, that was a part of what was there. My second little memory, Kaltuma, was the last time that I saw her. We were together at the University of Notre Dame. Habuka, Emmanuel Bombande was there for a conference we were having. I was kind of, I'm sure there'll be other Notre Dame folks here, so please carry my words carefully. I was kind of desperate to get people who had actually been in the middle of stuff into the academic conversation that a lot of folks who kind of looked at it and studied it but weren't in it were discussing those realities. And so Emmanuel and Dekha were two people that joined this conference. And we got to a place where we had just about enough words. So we kind of migrated back to our apartment where Wendy and I were living. And Emmanuel and Dekha and I sat and had tea together with Wendy. She took a picture of the three of us, and I'll try to find it and send it to you at some point. What I remember was a couple of things from that. The first was your mom's swings covering most of our couch where she was sitting. And when she sat down, it was the first time I noticed that she was wearing big giant hiking boots, because it was very cold in Indiana at that point. It was outside, it was snowing. And so here was this image of this flowing person in big hiking boots. And I've never forgotten that image, because it was almost kind of like really her. Somebody who was, genuinely walking the walk. We had two, and maybe Emmanuel later could send in his little note about what he remembers. I remember two parts of the conversation. The longest one was she was asking a very simple but profound question that I think a lot of us face who have spent kind of a lifetime journey around peace building, which was, how do you balance the unpredictable timing and demands that come at us with family? And what she was feeling pretty deeply, I think, that she had come to a place where she needed to find some better ways as you kids who I think were growing up for holding that. And that was a big conversation we had. We all, I think all four of us sitting in around that room today felt the same kind of things. Dekha, Emmanuel, and I from one side, my wife Wendy also jumping in from another, which is what it feels like to have people coming and going. And that was a powerful moment for me to hear that. The other, of course, it was early days in Al-Shabaab as you know, in parts of Somalia. And she at the conference and in our private conversations, she did what she always does, which was, people are going at this the wrong way because they don't understand it from the bottom up and the inside out. And, very words of the movement were movements about youth. That's part of what Shabab was, was kind of uprising. And she said, we have to, and I remember the one comment that she made, which I've often repeated, and it was because your mom and the women of Wajir have had such an extraordinary influence on my own understanding and thinking. And one of the things that I drew from them constantly was never stop reaching out. Always, reach to where you can go and then ask, what's the next reach? And what she had in mind was she wanted to gather a delegation of the women to go to Washington and sort out the politicians in Washington because they were coming at this terrorist question the wrong way. And I thought, this woman is absolutely brilliant. Let me just somehow get in the back end of the flow of her, where she's headed, and I want to follow that. So those were memories that I have. But I wonder, Kaltuma, what things, I know as a child, you probably had a mom who was trying to teach you lessons. And maybe some days that was kind of hard to take. But other days there might have been stuff that stayed with you. What is it that you're thinking about today, 10 years in this commemoration, thinking back to your family and mom?
Oh, thank you so much. Maybe I can first, I would like to thank people. I would like to thank the CPCS family, Emma, Betchak, Alison, and everyone who's here, and also Simon Mason for organizing this event. And to everyone who's joining the call and listening in from around the world, thank you for taking your time out of your day to be with us, to join me and my family today. And yeah, we really appreciate this so much. We appreciate you so much. And I know Mom would have loved this so much. And thank you, John Paul, for making the time to have this conversation with me. I know you're extremely busy and your mom is not feeling well. So I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with me today. Just thinking about this event, Dr. Maya Angelou quote came to me, and she said, "I come as one, but I stand as 10,000." And today I am standing here holding the baton for my mom, for all my ancestors.
Oh, it's quite all right, Kaltuma, please.
Yeah. I feel their presence. They're here with me. They're watching me and encouraging me. So I also come here with my siblings, Noorow, Balqisa, and Ibrahim. And I would just like to thank everyone for being a part of our 10,000. So some of the lessons, my mom was a teacher for all of you. Well, before she was a peace builder, she was a teacher, and she always loved for us to find the lessons in everything that she taught. We could never do anything without us finding a lesson in stuff. We couldn't even go on a holiday. We had to write proposal for why we needed to go on a holiday and write book reports. That's the person she was. And some of the lessons that I are still in the back of my mind every day are, she always taught us to wake up early and make your bed, even if it was on a Sunday. And I find that it really helps clear my mind. Every time I clean my space, it really helps me have a productive day. And the other one, well, a couple of other lessons. The other one was help others. My mom loved to help others, and she would take on everyone's problems like it was her own. And she instilled that in us. And I think the next lesson she picked from Emma's uncle, which was to document. She loved to document. She always said, if you didn't document, it didn't happen. And I think she tried to teach the Somali community to do that. And I also tried to instill that in the young people that I work with. I always say, just document it. No one knows it, the good things that you're doing are happening until you document it and share it. So that's another one. And the last one was, well, there are many more, but the last one I'll stop here, is to always stand up for what's right. If you see something that's wrong or unjust or unfair, just don't stand there quietly, do something about it. Try to be helpful. So, yeah.
Wow, that's so fantastic. And I think your last point especially is so right about, she was fearless about saying what she saw and she felt. And I think that's what made her such a powerful exemplar, a light in so many of our lives. So yeah, thank you, Kaltuma. It's interesting because we're also talking about this today from across generations, if you will. And I'm very cognizant that you are now such an extraordinary leader in your own right, with the people you just made reference to, especially the young people you have opportunity to work with and to engage. I suppose because my hair is getting grayer and I'm getting older and I'm now a grandfather, which is all sort of amazing things, right? I'm ever more cognizant that how much I appreciate and really want to learn to be a better elder in all of these things we do. And I'm curious if I was to ask a quick question, just of your own thinking, because your mom and I also grew up as younger people who were struggling to find our ways in a lot of things. And I can recall times when I was younger that it was sometimes hard to break through, to get people to listen. And I wonder if you would have any thoughts about what it is that those of us who have been at it a little longer need to stop and hear and listen to what it is that's coming and bubbling among the generations that are coming and are leading into the light and the leadership. Sometimes we get too full of ourselves, I think, to have the patience or the wherewithal to actually just stop and listen. What is it? What do you think we need to hear? What is it you think the youth are trying to say into our wider work and our field and our way of approaching all of this?
Oh, thank you for your question. It's a really, really good question that I've sat with and reflected on, and even asked some of my friends what they're thinking, what they're thinking. What I see is that there is a trend right now at the moment in the peace building field that I see now that youth are like a hot new trend. Young people are asked for their ideas when creating, when people are creating new programs involving youth or a youth program. And I see that young people a lot of times are asked for their input. A lot of times young people are not asked, for their opinions, for their ideas, and at the beginning phases of all these new projects. They're involved, they're invited, and they feel included in those moments. And then what I've seen is that maybe in the implementation phase of things and the decision-making moments, that youth feel that they're not included, or that their opinions were not honored or respected. And it almost feels like that people are using young people's input as like a tick off a checklist. And that is not really meaningful. And young people need to be seen as people who are bringing in just as much as people who have been at this a while. They need to feel valued and asked if the programs or the activities that are being implemented are as they envisioned it. And they have to also be trusted with parts of the process. And another thing I've seen, and sometimes in the frustration of youth not feeling heard or seen, that young people are now being forced to create or to get creative and do things differently, or create something new entirely, to become like disruptors in the field, in their respective fields, not only in the peace building field. And the amazing thing about my generation is that we're not waiting around for permission. We're not waiting around for our turn. Young people are going out there, they're creating their own tables and inviting you to their tables. And I think my mom was one of those disruptors as well. And maybe, I don't know, some of them are here with me today, so maybe I can mention and shout them out, and maybe I can share a link. Maybe I can share a document with links to their works, and you can, for those who are interested, can find out a bit more about them. But some of the young disruptors, for me, that I know, are Monamisi Bakari from Mombasa, I've worked with. There's Rania Ali from Syria, Onyango Otieno from Nairobi, David Kiarie from Nairobi, Yasmin Hassan, Jenna Baran, Nyambura Mundia, Steve Biko, and Yvonne Gache. And I am going to share quickly, maybe in the WhatsApp chat, and someone from CPS can help me share it in the chat. I've been trying, I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
No, absolutely. And I love your word disruptor, because I do think that your mom was very much a disruptor. What she had an amazing capacity to do was to disrupt, but stay in relationship with people. Keep tugging and pulling and pushing whenever needed, which I always found absolutely brilliant. Yeah. No, from my end, I feel very privileged to have opportunity to work with teams of people that include ever greater numbers of younger people. And I think one of our biggest challenges is precisely what you said. If I was to interpret your primary observation about the difference between asking someone for their idea and entrusting someone to have direct access to influencing and helping to shape the decisions, that's a shift in power. And what can feel very disempowering is kind of consulting in order to do that checklist, like you said, but then disempowering because people aren't actually invited into the place where decisions are actually made. And I think that's what you're pointing to in a lot of ways. It's been very frustrating across it. But I think, there are places right now where we're working where 65, 70% of the population is below 30. South Sudan, as examples. And you have to wonder how it would be possible to imagine any kind of a process that's really meaningful for the kind of change that's being sought if there isn't not just the occasional representative, which I think is a very weak model, but far more direct participation and decision making and shaping of the design of the direction that things are going, that would include people who are under, the word youth is always complicated. In Nepal, the youth wings of political parties sometimes go into the 60s. So it's a very strange kind of a notion of what youth might mean. But it is, I just think that we're faced increasingly that we ought to be functioning by some kind of principle. And maybe one of the principles would be half men, half women, because roughly that's what our makeup is in a lot of places. And whatever percentage of people are below 30, that might want to roughly approximate how they get included in not just a consultation, but in the actual decision making and the shaping and direction of the initiatives. Because we know that when the guns come out, in the vast majority, they're going to be carried by people that are most likely in that younger age bracket. How could we not possibly, replicate that in reference to the ways that we create teams, the way we create processes, the way we create initiatives? Well, it's fantastic to hear you say that.
Jean-Paul, Kaltuma, at the risk of cutting you short too soon, I think we might crack open the floor in a minute. But I know Simon is going to share with us the voice of Dekha from the book they wrote together. So thank you both so much. And let me challenge Jean-Paul and say half men, half women, or maybe it's just time for women, I would think. But
well,
Simon,
it could well be. We have a historic injustice to rebalance. So that would be a restorative practice, perhaps. Emma, thank you.
Thank you. Simon, let's pass to you and then we'll open the floor.
Thank you so much, Emma, and thank you also for the question to read from this book that Dekha and I worked on with the help of many in this room too. And there are 3 quotes I want to read out to you. Emma asks especially for this question of intergenerational dialogue and collaboration. The first one, and they're all in the voice of Dekha. The first one, I think, kind of sums it up. If you join energies with others, you can move mountains. I think it's so simple, but so powerful. And my second one is a bit of a glimpse into her life and into this question of handing over. So she was saying, I was living and working in Wajir until August 1999. I moved to Mombasa in 2001 after a 2-year teaching role at Responding to Conflict, Birmingham, UK. I wanted a teaching role for reflection and the opportunity to write away from the context, because a lot of the people who started the process were naturally moving away. And I kept hearing myself repeat, we used to, or we did it like this or like that. When I heard myself saying that, I began to hate and pity myself, thinking, this is how dictators are made. I needed to prepare somebody to take up my role while redefining my role in supporting the Wajir process and freeing myself to support other processes. It was necessary to look at the wider picture so that I did not become the only resource for Wajir, because you can really become too territorial and attached to processes. My 2 years in the UK in a teaching role helped me to step out that. When I didn't go back to Wajir, but went to Mombasa and supported different processes such as in Nairobi and Mandera. And my final quote is a question really to all of us. And I think part of the answer to the question is actually this gathering here. I was in utter shock one day when I realized and I asked myself, what will happen if I die? What have I left behind? Will the movement go beyond my personality? This was the beginning of systems thinking and seeing the big picture of a peace structure that can sustain itself. It has two key strategic approaches. How do we interest more people in peace work, especially at the coordination level? And how do we make Wajir Peace a professional movement owned by all? How do we create the next cadre of peace workers? And I think all of you today are part of that answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simon. And I can see so many people that resonate or were part of that journey in this room. I think we have had a small technical difficulty that not everybody can get in, but those of you that are here, let's open up the floor, and anyone who would like to share, you can technologically raise your hand, you can wave at me like crazy, you can just start shouting out. Okay, I see Sue and I see Babu, so let's go with Sue first, and then Babu, and then Habuka.
Among the many things I would want to say about Dekha, the one that I think is a little bit missing so far that I want to reinject is that I have never laughed as much with anybody as I laughed with Dekha. She had a perspective on things that was a little bit off center, kind of like a cartoonist. And the doodling was like that too. So I just want us to remember also how really wonderfully lighthearted she could be, as well as the serious person she was.
Thanks, Sue.
Thanks,
I've got
and thanks, John Paul.
Babu and then Habuka.
Yeah, thank you. KT, it's nice to see you. And John Paul, I don't know when I last saw you, so it's really nice to see you, my wonderful former professor. So, yeah, on a very personal note, this day is heavy for a number of us because, yeah, we worked with Dekha very closely, and I was a senior program advisor when she passed on. I'm the one who signed off the vehicle that was heading to Garissa. And apparently after she left our parking lot, she made the decision to spend one more day with the family. And our team left and arrived in Garissa, and then she just didn't. So I'm speaking for a number of people in the Peace 2 program. This is very personal. But I do appreciate, Dekha was an elder sister. She taught me, and I do recall that the last actually important meeting we had is she really chided me because for some reason we had an important meeting with government officials and I had not assigned anybody to take notes. And for some reason, I assumed somebody would do it. And after the meeting, apparently we realized no one was taking notes. And she was not very happy with me. But overall, for the many years I knew Dekha and worked with her, she was just a joy, to be with, ideas bubbling and tasking me to translate those ideas into technical documents within the program. We know how it works with peace building programming. And just want also to appreciate Kaltuma. I've worked with Kaltuma quite a bit in training programs in Kenya and Ethiopia. And on a light note, Kaltuma, you mentioned that one of the disruptors is Steve Biko, right?
Yes, Babu. Yes,
KT,
yes,
are you there?
yes, Babu. I was nodding. Yes.
So I just need to let the audience know that Steve Biko is my firstborn son. And one of the things I learned from Dekha is that we are carriers of burden, the carriers of burden, and we need to pass on that to the next generation. And I think that my generation, one of the greatest responsibilities we have now is to ensure that the generation of Kaltuma and Steve Biko and others, Rich Biko, who are involved in very valuable work, Onyango Tieno, Yvonne Gachi and others, who will carry on the work. So Kaltuma, on behalf of the government, I have noted that my son is one of the disruptors and I will follow up with him.
Well,
Thank you very
Babu,
much.
you're turning this into something completely different now. This is not reported. Thank you, Babu. Habuka, and then Nikolai.
Thank you so much, Emma. Nice to see you, John Paul. Kaltuma, I'm so happy to see you for the first time. I have no doubt your mom is smiling upon all of us. And this for me is the spirit. My journey from East Africa to the West, your mom had a very important role. And if I relate to the conversation in John Paul's apartment, the first thing about your mom is that she's a good storyteller. And that made an impact on people like myself who like to tell stories, but who learned how to tell the story like your mom so that it will be able to carry the relevance and the message. And I still remember very well, in that conversation, what I picked was your mom wanted to convey the message that in the challenges of our peace-building community, we belong to our families. And yet in some of our families, we suffer traumas, we suffer tragedies, but never let those hold us back, but we should turn the vulnerability around and make it our strength. And for some of us whose journey have experienced those type of situations, your mom played a significant role in the strength that we have carried along to be able to contribute. And for me, it's an emotional day, but it's also a day of celebration. And in various ways, and you will probably never get to hear all the stories when you talk about your mom's systems thinking, all the people in this conversation today who were part of how do we translate into practice and into institutions and structures that carry along you know your mom played a role. And I just wanted to conclude on this note that for some of us in very difficult places like the Central African Republic, where I was working, I will tell the story of your mom with the Wajir women amongst Central African women in the jungles who were holding society together, and yet all the institutions on the ground, including the United Nations, will not appreciate what it means to have that space of the women taking the leadership. And in situations at the community level, the women in their numbers around the destruction and the devastation held society together. And yet at the national level, when you wanted people around the table to talk about dialogue, you did not see the women. And I will use your mom's story to challenge the women not to expect to be invited, but to do all that it takes to be there. And the reason I always repeated was because the future that is ahead of you, the future for your children and their children, is not something that international institutions will determine for you. It is for you to take it. And without talking for long, thank you so much. Thank you for carrying on this with your mom and Babu's words of wisdom, all the people who were our peers, Florence, George, and all the people that somebody like me learned from the East to bring to West Africa, and to have that connection that continues is special. And your mom was central to this. Thank you for this privilege to be part of this community. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Abuka. Nikolai, and then Khadija, and then George. Nikolai.
Thank you, Kaltuma. Everyone, it's wonderful to be here today and to see you. I think the theme of this discussion on intergenerational dialogue is something that I know Dekha would have really sparked on, because it's an angle on things, and she had so many angles on things. So long as they were imaginative and creative and inspiring, she embraced them. So it made me think of three small incidents and exchanges I had with her at different levels of generation. And the first was in Mandera. We were in a workshop, a planning workshop, and somebody along the way, one of the participants said, yes, and so died, was killed yesterday. It's one person, it's normal. And boom, the room went silent. And Dekha just stopped. She was like, what is normal? And she spent the rest of the 2 days talking with these mostly older people about what normal is and what normal we want to see. And we had all these plans that we were going to fulfill through the workshop. They all went completely out of the window, because the most important thing for her was to define normal and imagine normal, that the normal we want. And there were so many people in the room whose minds needed to be they needed to unlearn many things and relearn. And I remember that phrase from her as well. We need to learn to unlearn. So we spent 2 days discussing normal, and it was so much more powerful than anything we'd planned. The second example I wanted to share was when we were in Mombasa, and in a break from another meeting, she said, let's go for a swim, to some of the younger Somali women who were with her. And everyone was terrified. And they said, we can't swim here. There's tourists everywhere. There's men, we don't even know how to swim. And she said, no, let's swim. So they went down the beach, a group of about 5, more like our peers, but some of them were younger. And she just walked into the sea, fully dressed, and they all followed her. And they were terrified, absolutely terrified. And people kept asking her, but can you swim? And she just said, we'll be fine. So we still don't know. I don't know. You probably know whether she could swim or not. But she took people of her own generation and slightly younger and just transgressed those boundaries that were holding everyone back, that had been internalized. It was a beautiful thing. I saw her from far, far away, walk straight into the sea, and these young ladies follow her. And the final example, the final interaction I wanted to mention was something that really stayed with me, because Dekha was in between many things and in demand in so many places for what she could do. And she was rushing. And just as we left one meeting and we were saying goodbye, I said to her, Dekha, how do you manage this? I could never manage to do all the things you do. And she said, the most important thing for me, she said, I don't know what will happen to me. I could die. Many of my friends have died. Our community has died. This is dangerous. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. But while we are here, we must smile at each other. And the one thing I do before I leave my home, I never rush out the door. I never rush. I always pause and I smile at my children. So the last thing they will remember, if by any chance it's the last thing, is my smile. And she smiled at me and turned away. And I just remember that smile. And anyway, that's what I wanted to share. It's beautiful to be here with you.
Thanks, Kolya. Khadija and then George.
Hi, everyone. My name is Khadija, and I am so privileged to have met Dekha. Actually, she was my mother's best friend. And I wouldn't say they were best friends. I would say they were actually sisters. So she was like a second mom to me and my siblings. My brother Mansoor, who is here today, and my mom is also here with us today in this conversation. And one thing I truly remember about her, other than all the gifts that I used to get, was that she never silenced me. I was a very talkative child, and I was a very opinionated little girl. And sometimes I would be very embarrassing. Like I would say just anything and everything. And people around me used to tell me, you talk so much. But she never used to tell me that. And she would always tell me, Hoyo, which means mom in Somali, you can say whatever you want. You and me are always on the same side. So if there's one thing I remember about her, it's that. And yeah, they didn't succeed in silencing me. So she won. Thank you.
Khadija, thanks for not being silenced and speaking up. George, you're next. George, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you. Can you?
I can hear you too. Go ahead.
Okay, very good. Good to see so many friends gathered today to celebrate Dekha. Reminded the saying that one way of abolishing war is to make peace heroic, and to remember our heroes. You'll forgive me, my camera is positioned in a very funny place on my computer, so I appear to be looking in the wrong place when I look at the screen. So thank you so much. Good to see so many of you. Two quick points and stories. First is that I credit Dekha and another heroic woman, Rose Barmasai, with my own introduction to the real meaning of peacemaking and peace building. And I've always been struck by how the two of them left us, both of them unexpectedly, both claimed by our roads. Rose Barmasai in 1999 and Dekha in 2011. My first encounter with Dekha was in 1995. At that point, I have been maybe 6 years deep into peace building, mostly in Kenya, but also in neighboring countries. And I met Dekha in my hometown of Limuru at a conference where she was talking about her work in Northern Kenya. Already I was thinking I know enough about this stuff because I had met Rose Barmasai earlier, and I had discovered one part of Kenya's periphery, which was in Western Kenya. But I was yet to discover the part of Kenya's periphery that Dekha came from. And she really introduced me to the idea of what it means to make peace. Both she and Rose, I discovered early on that they had a surreptitious way of being subversive. They subverted culture, they subverted common wisdom. They turned things upside down and showed us the way. And I really credit both Dekha and Rosemary Masai for my introduction to what really peace building is all about. The second quick thing is my experience 2008, starting from January 1, 2008, where we were caught up in a heated moment in our politics in Kenya, and our country was sliding down the precipice. And we found ourselves, 5 of us, having to come together quickly and rally Kenyans around. It turned out to be a huge movement, but at the core, there were 5 of us. And it was interesting that Dekha was the youngest amongst the 5 of us that initially came together, and Dekha became our leader for good reason. And I was reflecting later that Kenya's periphery was actually leading in to save mainland Kenya, because for a long time, Dekha's home area was the periphery in terms of as far as Kenya was concerned. And we had Dekha helping us to save mainland Kenya. That particular experience, a real pressure cooker that really tested all of us, stretched our imagination, stretched our energies, stretched our creativity. And it was amazing to see how Dekha helped us in her unusual wisdom every turn during those months that we struggled to pull Kenya back from the precipice. I myself, to quickly say, I did suffer a hit on my health as a result of the work that we did for those 7 months. But I never saw Dekha tired. And a part of that period coincided with the time that she was going through a fasting. And I do remember her at one point collapsing out of sheer fatigue, but just getting up as if nothing had happened and continuing with the work that we are doing. So I'm glad that we are here to honor the memory of Dekha, remember her, and may her memory, work, achievement, and legacy live on. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, George. Is anyone else who'd like to come in or to share? Simon Fisher. And then Suleiman. Simon and then Suleiman. Simon, we have to get you to unmute there.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. It's a long way away to give instructions. But what can I say? First of all, hear about, have us all together in this circle is quite amazing. Talk about someone who was such a disruptor, a subversive, funny person is both moving, but it's also stirring embers for us now. Because I think we've always said we wanted to carry her work, and let's not only say Dekha, but others who have carried her qualities. We want to carry those qualities with us and, in a way, like Emma said, amplify them. I think one thing perhaps we need to mention again is how strong her values were. She would always talk about the values of peace building. And I remember one anxious moment for myself when we were at Woodbrook and she was teaching on a long course. And then she said to me one day, Simon, I need to talk to you something about something very private. Can we go in the garden? And well, you know, she could be scary. And I really know, I felt like a little boy being taken by the headmistress into the garden. Anyway, she said, you know, I've noticed that your son, Jonah, the last 3 weeks has been helping out in the office, had a job in the office. I said, oh, yeah. She said, I am really concerned you're going to turn RTC into a dynasty. I've seen it all before. And she poured her heart out about how critical this was. And, you know, to explain to her gently that they came and they went, wasn't really the point. It was that she wouldn't brook something which somehow embodied hierarchy, embodied all the things which we're fighting against, even when, you know, she didn't want to offend me for all sorts of reasons, but that never came foremost in her minds. And I think that's something, that sense of values is really something we usefully we really need to hang on to now when peace building has become a bit more mainstream. And just to finish, I think that the way that she renewed or framed peace building from being rather an academic topic, she was with all those colleagues in Wajir and elsewhere doing this work. That remains important for us, but we also, I think, are asking, so what is the reframing that we need to do now with young people, of course, and with Kaltuma and all those leading us, because this is not a fossilized endeavor that we're in. We've got massive climate change, we've got biodiversity things. How do we stand with those? And I think one of our roles, which young people can help us with, is enabling the conflicts that are happening in those dimensions to be handled creatively. So we're in a sense moving into the center of some of that system change, as well as working on explicitly violent conflicts. And that's another of the places where I really think we need next generation guidance. Thank you, everyone.
Emma, can I just jump in with something quick?
Yes.
The last time I saw Dekha was when we were living in Zimbabwe, and we invited her to come to Zimbabwe. Without a particular agenda, but just knowing that she would inspire people, which she did, and people still remember that visit. There was one lovely part of that trip, which I remember. We went out to a lake, which is quite close to Harare, and followed a long track right out into the middle of the lake, sat on this point. Dekha was very fired at that time by the idea of Peace University. And we had a picnic. It was very beautiful and lovely. And we came back from the picnic with the declaration of Bird Point,
Yes.
which was a classic Dekha thing, really. It was a declaration about how we were going to get the Peace University going. I fear it's still in gestation, and there's been lots of obstacles, but that's one of my lasting memories of her.
Can I just come back from that? This is most unfair, because just to say, on that same visit, she and I ended up leading a 2-day workshop, the Central Intelligence Organization in Zimbabwe, teaching them conflict resolution. They all wanted it, and I was there illegally at the time, and I was saying to her, do you think we should? And she said, yes, this can be really transformative, let's do it. The first day was so successful, none of them came back the next day, except one who came, their nose through the door and said, oh my goodness, well, I'm not supposed to be here. The authorities have said we can't. So in a way, that was an indication of the power of someone to make changes and the risks that authority will feel.
Perhaps she scared them just as she scared you, Simon. And I'm sure that if she's looking down on Jonah right now and knows for sure he had no intention to take on the dynasty of responding to conflict. I have Suleiman and then Val.
Hello, everyone. Let me say a great thank you to Emma Leslie and Sue Williams and all those who have organized this amazing gathering, and to see our friends Simon Fisher, Richard Smith, and very many more. And I'm very glad to also see Dekha's children, especially Kaltuma. They're following her path, and we do really feel proud of them. 3 quick points. I met Dekha in 1999, where we were running this Working with Conflict course together with Simon Fisher and Sue Williams, late Steve Williams, and Richard Smith. During the course of our work there, I found Dekha a great leader, a great manager, a great mentor, and a great counselor, and a person with great vision and also a great values. So there is no doubt to say anything more, because she was a woman of a great source of information, not only to us there as the colleagues working together, but also to all who met there, either those who had come for studying or those who were working in different offices. So her smile, her style of life and being a very simple person, but at the same time assertive and also very hot on her work, and really give us the spirit to work as she had given a good example. The point I'm trying to make is that after I returned from completing that term of the WWC course in 1999 to Afghanistan, so I was running, working with conflict courses or peace building courses for a number of people, the 8 workers and community elders, men and women, school teachers, very many more. And interestingly, we have been using those tools that we had learned in the RTC course, and some of them were reinvented by Dekha, like stages of conflict, showing the back of a camel. And more importantly, the Wajir story video that we have been showing to the participants was really very inspiring, and we had translated that in our native language. So that created a very great desire by men and women in Afghanistan that had been part of those peace building workshops and also had seen the video of Wajid's peace building story and Dekha there. So we tried to invite Dekha to Afghanistan, and we spoke to her very many times, and she was so keen and interested to visit Afghanistan. And the last conversation I had was when she had returned from Mecca. She had performed her pilgrimage, and that was the perfect time that she could make to come to Afghanistan. Unfortunately, that never happened. So Allah knows better what was good behind what happened, unfortunately. The second point I'm making is a story that we were in Mombasa. So we were walking alongside the sea, and we slowly tried to walk in the sea, not to the deep place, but at least to the knee, up to the knee was water. And I immediately noticed some of those sea creatures, because I come from a landlocked country. That was my first time to see these live sea creatures near my feet. So I was terrified and completely scared. And she started laughing, and telling everyone there who were beside us that, look, this man comes from Afghanistan, where he comes from a place of conflict and terrible fighting. He never scared from bombing or shelling or whatever. And he had experienced so many of these terrible conflicts. But look, he is scared from these small creatures. Still that laugh and those sense of humor is fresh in my memory. What to say, I mean, there have been a lot of memories that we shared, and things that we share, and her memories still are fresh in my mind. So hope that her way is being continued by not only by her children, but all of us around the world. We achieve the vision she had for a peace and just society throughout the world. Thank you so much for all those who organized this meeting, and I'm glad to see friends here in this Zoom conference. Take care, thanks.
Thank you, Suleiman. Val, and then Fatuma. No, Val, not yet. One more time.
I'm on mute now.
Yes, you're good now.
Am I there now? Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
I was just a quick memory of Dekha. I was resident at Woodbrook when one of the early working with conflict courses arrived. And as I recall, the participants were mainly male. And into the dining room floats this vision of glory in her flowing robes, and the astonishment on everyone's faces. This woman, is this glamour girl going to teach us? And within 48 hours, all the participants were hanging on the edge of her dresses saying, tell me more, help me more. And she won everybody's hearts and minds.
Thank you, Val. That's beautiful.
And got rid of a lot of sexism, I think.
And brought a whole unique feminism to the space. Fatuma.
Exactly.
Thank you, Val. Fatuma, can you hear me? Go ahead, Fatuma. No, just need to unmute again. I've tried to unmute and see. Can you hear me? Fatuma, can you wave if you can hear me? Yeah. Now we just need you to unmute. Frustrating, isn't it? You could just smile and act it out, or send us kisses. That would also be okay. Maybe if there's, in a moment we're going to go to Balkisa, who's going to read us her poem that she's written for this occasion. Fatuma, you're the last person to speak. If there's any way we can get you unmuted. If not, we may have to hear from you in 10 years more.
Can I say something small?
Halima, of course. Something as long as you like. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Halima. And actually, Dekha was a very good friend of mine. And at the same time, and she was like my sister. Actually, the latest spoke is my daughter. And me and Dekha had a lot of issues to share all the time. What I can say is that there are some people who bring a light so great to the world that even after they are gone, the light still remains. And that's what Dekha is. Thank you.
Thank you, Halima. So true. Fatuma, any luck? I'm so sorry, because the one thing Dekha never liked was anyone to be silenced. So Fatuma, and you of all people, yes, we're receiving your kisses and your love, and we see your energy, and people are sending love back to you. I'm sorry we can't hear you. I don't know what happened. Balkis?
Fatuma can't unmute?
No, Babu, I don't know why. There's...
Oh.
We've asked her to unmute.
I think
yes.
I think Fatima, you can leave and then come back. This is my experience when you have started the book. So you leave and then you come back, and then maybe it can help.
Let me advise her. Fatima, you want to drop out of the call and come back in, and then see if we can hear you. Okay. So while Fatima's doing that, I think we'll go to Balgisa to hear the poem that she prepared for us on her 21st birthday and the 10-year anniversary of saying goodbye to her mum. Balgisa.
Hi, Auntie Emma. Am I coming in?
Yes. Let me spotlight you for everyone.
Okay.
So everyone.
I'm actually with Balkisa right now, but she's a bit shy, so I'm going to read it on her behalf, if that's okay with you all.
It's very okay, Noorow.
Okay, I'm Noorow. Not the last time that any of you might have seen me, like I'm saying this. Auntie Simon, Auntie Richard, Auntie Sue, all of you guys are here. Very good to see you guys.
Noorow wave. Can Balkisa wave at least? Where is she?
Okay, Richard, everyone is here. Okay, so Balkisa wrote a poem because Hoy used to write them a lot. So this is from Hoy's point of view to Balkisa on her 21st birthday. Fly, my little one, see the world. For all it beholds, from the mountains high to the valleys low. My little one, don't play the part expected of you. for you shine brighter when you aren't held back. My little one, when things get tough, no matter where you are, remember the sun and the sky are a constant, so that you'll always see the beautiful sunsets that remind you of home. Would you like me to read it again? Oh, okay.
Yes, actually, we would like you to read it again. Go ahead.
Okay. Fly, my little one.
Please read it again.
Okay. Fly, my little one. See the world for all it beholds, from the mountains high to the valleys low. My little one, don't play the part expected of you, for you shine brighter when you aren't held back. My little one, when things get tough, no matter where you are, remember the sun and the sky are a constant, so that you always see the beautiful sunsets that remind you of home. And I will be giving this poem to Kaltuma to share it with you all.
Thank you so much, Noorow, for reading it. And Balgisa, if you can hear us, thank you for writing it. And I think you can also, Balgisa wrote that poem from the perspective of her mum.
Can you come and wave?
She's here with me,
Can she wave? There she is.
Come wave, Bibidi.
Many of you were around at the beginning of the lives of these children, and so I want to update you that Kaltuma, of course, is a successful peace builder in Kenya. Noorow has just done outstanding in her medical exams in Turkey. Ibrahim, who's also with us and now somewhere waving, I can see you, has graduated as a flight instructor and actually teaches people how to fly gigantic planes. And Balgisa is just turned 21 and just graduated school and is ready to go off into the world. So extraordinary success from Four Cherubs, and I think that's the opportunity and us to sing happy birthday to Balgisa on her 21st birthday. So I don't know how this will sound, Balgisa. I apologize in advance, but we'll do our best. Everybody, please unmute. And we will now sing together happy birthday to Balgisa. Are you ready?
Yes.
Luis, together. Unmute. Okay, ready?
Happy
birthday
to you.
Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Balgisa. Happy birthday to you.
How melodious. Thank you so much. So, unless we can find Fatuma, who came back into the room, I think that draws our time together to a close. I know our team has some music that was chosen by Kaltuma to send us out. But thank you all for coming, and energy and power and love to all of you all around the world. I know many of you are in trouble spots. Many of you are in just trouble. And be disruptors, be powerful, be energetic, loads of love, and looking forward to seeing you all in various forms, in various places into the future. Lots of love. Oh, I need to say that John Paul Lederach excused himself. I'm afraid to say that his mother is passing just now. So we were lucky that he was with us for those moments, and you can pass your condolences to him, I think, in the next few hours. So love to you all. Some music to celebrate the life of Dekha and Balgisa as we go out. Alison, please roll the music. So much love. Please stay on as long as you like. Smiling and waving and cheering and chatting. It's now free roaming.
They're playing a Somali music.